So nice seeing such beautiful faces. Okay, welcome. Welcome to Satsang. Lately, the thing that was common was people asking about peace of mind. How do I find peace of mind? I like that question because if you have peace, you have everything. So let's go into what peace really is. You see, most people think that peace is a peace of mind. It is not. The mind is a duality. The mind can never be at peace. You can have moments of respite from thinking, but you can never have complete peace of mind. Okay? And at this point I'd like to refer to the Course in Miracles, the peace of God. Now what is the difference between the two? Okay, the difference is trinity. We'll discuss that in a moment. But the real meaning of peace is fullness of being. Now when we talk about fullness of being, we are including everything that our heart yearns for. You see, there is only one will. They call it the will of God, okay? There is only one will, but you are a human being. And the human and the being have the only thing they have in common is the will. The will for the fullness of being. Now the fullness of being means this: perfect love, perfect peace, happiness, joy. You see, all the things that fill you, but they are not something. Like love is the fullness of being, peace is the fullness of being, but it is not something. It just is. So it's a form of emptiness, nothingness, and a isness. So when you say God is, we are actually really terming it the way it actually is. God is. You cannot define it. No beginning or end. But that is the very nature of fullness. That in itself. And it's a fullness because there is no fear, guilt, or anything human in it. Let's go into it, okay? You see, the human being, which is the duality, the human is always seeking the being, but it doesn't know it. Okay, what is it seeking? It's seeking the fullness of being. And the fullness of being contains everything that the human needs to survive well, because we're born with the instinct of survival. So security is very important, safety is very important, feeling loved and love is very important. But the thing is that most people do not understand that the fullness of being does not exist in the world. So when the human seeks in the world, he ends up with conflicted feelings, with frustration, confusion, perplexity, you see. So, but what is actually happening is the human is always seeking the being, always, but it doesn't know it, okay, because it's seeking the fullness of being. Okay, now why does it happen that way? Because there is one thing, and I have realized it, but I've been doing this for many, many years. The world is really an illusion, you know, but we always take it to be real. But the thing in the world, when you live in the world, is that fear and guilt are common places. It's a common thing. As a matter of fact, we automatically inject guilt into people, and we call it love. I'll give you an example. A few days ago, I had a guy came to see me. And he was feeling a little guilty because he felt an attraction towards the same sex. He found himself that he's gay. And it was kind of frightening to him. So he went and talked to his parents about it. He had courage to do that, but anyway. And they more or less rejected him for being that way. They tried to change him. Okay? So then what happened is, he was telling me this. He said his father came over to him and he said, "Son," he said, "how could you do this to your mother?" Do you understand now what we mean by guilt? How we automatically do it. How can you do this to me after all I've done for you? We build guilt. So the world is filled with guilt, filled with fear. You see? And so that is the opposite of the fullness of being. But that's all we want, you see? And that is also our will, which we do not recognize until we begin to wake up. But we cannot wake up as long as we make the world real. You see? And then I have to refer back to the Course in Miracles, which is so beautiful. You see? So how do you deal with this? Every time that you make anything real in the world, anything at all, okay, you have to forgive it. Because if you don't, it builds up your ego.
So how do you relate that, saying what you're saying, to the example you used with this young guy where his parents put this guilt on him? So what is he to do with the father saying, how can you do this to your mother?
He has to find out first that what is happening to him is part of the process of the journey of being who he is. Mm-hmm. See, there's nothing wrong in anything. It's all love. Love is the very expression of life. And how we live life is either according to the rules of society or religion or tradition, which is the world, or our heart. And if anything that comes naturally to you, anything that feels okay. Now what do we mean by okay? Fullness of being. You feel clean, you feel pure. In other words, because part of the fullness of being is innocence. See, there is no idea of wrong, of doing something wrong. It is simply just like a child. There's nothing wrong. The first thing he does when he discovers he has a penis, he starts playing with it. But the parents sometimes go like this. And that starts the first guilt. You see what I mean? But the natural process of life is exploration, is experience. You see? And as we begin to experience, and then we find that everything that is natural to us, that very natural itself is the flow, is the fullness of being. When we allow it, that's the innocence. Innocence means you see nothing as wrong, nothing as bad, nothing as evil, nothing as sinful. Okay, so we have to see the difference between the truth and also the world itself. When we begin to see both, the human and the being, then we come into a form of clarity. Let's go into and talk about the Trinity, because this is how we begin to understand, how we go to fullness of being. See, everything is a Trinity, but the Trinity is one. Okay, I'm going to explain, but if I'm not clear after a few explanations, please ask me. Trinity is like a chair. Okay, you cannot have two legs. You'll topple. You need three chairs. You need three legs, okay, to create balance. Okay, so the Trinity, you can see it this way. The Trinity is that part that completes a oneness. All right, for example, take love. Okay, let's understand love. Now, the first thing you think of when you think of love, you think of sex. You think of relationship. You think of kissing, hugging. You think of expressing love, which is beautiful, okay? But that's physical. And sometimes people don't know any more than that. They stick, so we call them, very physical. That's the first level of the Trinity. And then it goes a little deeper, and we take in the mind and emotions. So we have the same habits, my partner and I, we share the same interests, we have the same frequency and vibrations, so to speak. So we relate to each other, but that's still a duality. It's still a duality, because it's mind, emotions, okay? And then finally, we enter the Trinity, which is spirit. But you see, when we talk about spirit, we think of something. We think spirit as something. Spirit is nothing, nothingness at all. Nothing, complete nothingness. See, everything that you see is an expression of this nothing state. If you, as a matter of fact, just a few years ago, the quantum mechanics or quantum physics have brought quite a bit of kerfuffle, understanding about the holographic universe and how everything came from nothing. And it was so beautiful. It was beautiful to see because everything came from spirit. Everything came from nothing. So cause and effect. Okay, so love itself is a cause. The effects of it are physical, mental, and emotional. But the truth of it is. So let's say you find someone that you love. And as long as I say I love you and you say you love me, it's a duality. Okay? It's a special love. It's a special relationship. But then comes a moment when you begin to feel so much one with the partner, because remember the spiritual arithmetic, you know the spiritual arithmetic, right? 1 plus 1 makes 1. Got it? Okay. So therefore, when you are in love with someone, you begin to feel this love, such connection, that your heart itself opens up. And then there's no jealousy or possessiveness or demands or even expectations. Because you grow so comfortable with this love that it starts to embody more than itself. That's the spiritual love. Spiritual love is a oneness. It is not loving someone to the exclusion of everyone else. In other words, it's not exclusive but inclusive. That's true love. That's the Trinity. Okay? And that love is a feeling knowing. You know, did you ever become so silent and all of a sudden you just feel this incredible feeling as if everyone is your family, everyone is a part of you? If you've ever felt that, which is a very spiritual, beautiful feeling, is the beginning experiences of oneness. See, there's let's take something else in order to go into this a little bit deeper. For example, we're talking about peace, right? Because that's the fullness of being. That's what we're talking about right now. And please know that even though I'm talking a lot, this is not information. This is a feeling. If you're not feeling what I'm saying, you're missing it. Okay? These are just examples. So let's talk about peace. You see, in the beginning, we think of peace as you go into a beautiful environment where it's quiet, no cars, nothing, no noise, just the sky, the grass, the trees, you know. Ah, so quiet. Beautiful. Okay, that's physical environment, that's physical peace. Then there are moments when you enter the emotional and mental peace. Your mind becomes very quiet because things are probably going your way. Things are not bothering you. There's no fear or guilt in the moment. So you find moments of peace. But these are temporary. This is duality still. But then there is spiritual peace, which you never lose once it's discovered. And this is when you transcend the world and you see the world really for what it is. It is a play. You're a human being, which is being playing the human role. You see? And when you see that very, very clearly, when it's extremely clear to you, then you'll find a peace that will never leave you. Because nobody can hurt you. There's nothing to protect. There's nothing to defend. You see? There is not even anything to worry about because you are. You see, you are this isness itself. It just is. That's the peace. That's the fullness of being. Let me give you an example how this is happening now in the times we're living in. You know, during the war, which is the 40s, people were very physical. And as a matter of fact, it's being depicted as the third dimensional plane. You know, height, width, depth, material form. That's reality. That's what is real. Later on in the 50s and 60s, 50s came rock and roll, which is kind of a beautiful music where people have more energy, they begin to express themselves. It's everything, nothing happens by chance. That's the beautiful thing. And then after that, in around the 60s or 70s, a book was written by a minister, Vincent Peale. The Power of Positive Thinking. Have you ever heard of this book? Mm-hmm. When this book came out, it took North America, or maybe the world, by storm. And everybody started buying this book. As a matter of fact, hundreds of teachers emerged from this theory of positive thinking. Everybody became positive. Courses in positive thinking, how to be positive in enterprise, in business, and in relationships and everything else. Fine, but we kept on progressing and growing. Then computers came into being, thank God, which is an electronic marvel. And now we have the internet, and the world has become so closer. We can email someone in Australia and everywhere. I get emails from everywhere. I get Skype sessions from all over the world, as if they are here in the living room. We've made the world a little closer, you see? So now what has happened too also is that we were ready for another idea whose time has been born, and it's called the law of attraction. Esther Hicks, beautiful human being, channeled the Abraham and came up with the law of attraction, and then a business took it over and they made a fortune out of it, which is called The Secret. It was made into a movie and a book, and many people started making a big baloo about it. But what they didn't know is that they showed only about 1/10 of the law of attraction, which deals only with how to get, how to achieve, how to get what you want, you see? But the law of attraction goes much deeper than that, but it's still the law of mind. But anyway, it became famous, and now there's a lot of businesses dealing with the law of attraction. There are many teachers teaching it. There are even single clubs catering to the law of attraction, you see? So, you see what I'm talking about, the Trinity here? How evolution is happening? How we are growing into this expansion from the physical to the mental to the emotional, but now we're moving into the spiritual. And I kid you not, this video is going to be seen in years to come. And mark my words, that in a few years' time, everybody will be interested, not everybody, but most people will be interested in non-duality, the truth of oneness. And of course, in miracles, incidentally, will keep spreading in ways undreamed of before. Because it's not a system, it's not a cult, it's not a religion, it's not even a belief. You see? So this is how we move into Trinity, into the from the physical, mental, emotional, into the spiritual. The spiritual, again, we go back, is a nothingness. You see? Nothingness itself. Now when we say nothingness, it's very scary, because the mind cannot understand nothingness. You see, but in nothingness there can be no fear. In nothingness there can be not even beliefs. There can be no guilt, because it's nothing. And then, when you begin to experience nothing, actually experience it, you become very still and experience that silence. You begin to see the peace of it, the silence of it. Like I mentioned in the last satsang, I had a vision of Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi many, many years ago when I was a physiotherapist. And after a while, because I was interested in psychology, I thought, oh my goodness, this is I'm hallucinating. But 6 months later, I saw his photo, I saw his picture on the cover of a book, and that blew me away. And I thought, oh, this was real. He actually appeared. Okay? So anyway, so I don't want to miss the point here of what I'm trying to say. So what happened is that I began to follow his teachings, and all I wanted to do was meditate. Especially, he advocated, who am I? And he said, if you ask who am I, you'll get to know. So I used to go on, who am I, who am I? Like a mantra, but nothing happened. For years, nothing happened. And I'm not saying that this takes that long. It did with me because I had no teacher. So I had Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi, but that's all. After 27 years, I realized what who am I is. There is no answer to it. And that is the answer. Are we beginning to understand how nothingness is everything? It is absolutely everything. So, now why is that? Can I have some feedback here? Why is when I ask, who am I? A part of me says, I don't know.
You're not looking for something objective.
Exactly. Exactly. You see, the mind is always looking for something objective. Some idea, some belief, some structure, some form. But when you say, I don't know, and allow it, I don't know. That is so beautiful. You know, because as you go deeper into nothingness, you find that nothingness is everything. It is absolutely everything. So the moment you begin to feel that silence, that tranquility, that's the fullness of being. You begin to feel that peace. You begin to feel that silence. You know, one time there was a man and he had lots of problems. You know, and his wife was leaving him, and he lost a lot of money, he was always drinking. So, one time, he was told, says, go out in the morning, get up about 5 o'clock, as dawn breaks, before the sun rises. And this happened in Kitsilano, so he went on the beach, looking at the far horizon. He sat on a bench, and he sat for half an hour, just looking in the horizon, just looking, until the sun rose. Nothing happened. He was just there. When he walked away, he had no problems. Are you understanding me? Nothing mattered anymore. Now the money didn't come back all of a sudden. His wife didn't make up with his wife. But when he looked at it, he found, I really have no problems. I'm at peace. You see what I mean? Now after a while, you know, he might have identified with the world again, and it might have come back again, but the point is that at that moment of nothingness, he was in the fullness of being. So to make a long story short, how do we awaken the peace of God? Which is the peace of the fullness of being. Which is everything. Everything. Okay? There are two things, two qualities. And I'd like to be able to discuss this at length so that we can understand it fully. One is see very clearly that the world is an illusion. When I first heard it from Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi, it kind of blew me away, because to me the world was very real. But as I went on over, now I know it isn't. You know, and that's a fact. But to see, because the world is made up, even the moment you are born as a human, you're born with the instinct of survival. Which means, for you to survive as a human, you have to have that need to survive. You know, otherwise there's a big manhole, and if you don't have a need for survival, you might keep walking and fall into it instead of avoiding it. You know what I mean? You see a car coming at you, you might not have evaded. So the fear of survival is what keeps us alive. But at the same time, it brings the fear of death. So the moment it brings the fear of death, there is a strong need to identify that you are a body. The moment you identify with the fact that you are a body, then you start making the body very real. And that's when the body starts having problems, ailments. Now, another thing that the Course makes, which is so beautiful too, it says that the body in itself is neutral. All illness is mental. Everything comes from the mind. If a person actually is not well physically, or they're aging very fast, or they're always sick, it's because somehow or other there's guilt and fear in the mind. It was, I think, he wrote a book called Healing Code.
Oh, right.
Yeah, Dr.
Abraham said.
Oh, what was the name of the one that wrote it? Anyway, he's also a cancer specialist. He did over 20 years of dealing with cancer, and he says, I've never met a cancer patient who did not have unforgiveness issues. You see? So that's quite something. Now the Course in Miracles says something very similar. It says that what makes the world a place of great suffering is unconscious guilt. That feeling as if we're not good enough, as if there's something wrong, as if we're not complete, we're not whole. You see? In other words, the opposite of the fullness of being. So therefore, how does it happen then? You begin to see that the world is really an illusion. If you hear me say these words, it's not going to convince you, it's not going to do anything. But what will do it is when you start forgiving every time you make something real. Every time you make something real, forgive it, and you'll find all of a sudden you'll enjoy. You begin to feel such incredible energy coming from it. You have a thought, a negative thought, immediately you make it real, and you react. You see? But if you see that there's nothing there but just a thought, if a thought remains as a thought, you're no longer caught in it. See? It's the same with emotion. An emotion is an emotion. But if you make it real, you suffer.
I've been noticing recently, even today, I was making something real in my mind. I had a meeting and something, and I was chewing on, I should have said this, and I was getting fighting back and forth in my mind with, the people I had a meeting with, and anyway, it was just sending me into this horrible place of negativity. And all of a sudden I saw it, that I was just creating this. And for some reason, I don't know how it was one of those moments I could step out of it. And the next moment, I was not caught in it. And the next moment, my physical changed, my emotions changed. It was like I was this new person in a second.
That's beautiful.
But I can see how if we have a particular thing that causing an illness, how hard it's to get out.
Yes, well, this is it. You see, when the body actually succumbs to illness due to the guilt and the fear that we carry with us, it is because it's been there so long. Mm-hmm. See, even something very serious, very chronic illness, it takes a few years to actually develop, to actually take root in the body, and then it becomes chronic, you see. So it doesn't happen overnight. We start having symptoms, you see. So what do? The first time we are not physically well? We run to a doctor. Now, please, I'm not saying anything against medicine here, against doctors, but what happens is that we are always treating symptoms instead of the root cause of what is happening. Even if you have a cold, the cold is a beautiful thing. What do you do when you have a cold? Your nose is running, you sneeze. It's nature's way, letting go, letting go, letting go. Every time you sneeze, it's full of germs, right? Your body is getting rid of stuff. So what I'm saying is that everything is love, everything. But what do we do when you have a cold? You go and have some medicine. And it suppresses the cold. It didn't have a chance to release in a very natural way. Are you understanding me here? Okay. So when you release something in a very natural way, it's just like you did. Mm-hmm. There's no difference between mind and body. No difference at all. The two are one, except that the body is neutral and the mind directs the body. So therefore, in that particular case, if you have something physical, you relate back to what is it, that is creating this. But you don't even have to actually go into it. All you have to do is forgive it. And we have to talk about forgiveness now, because it's not something you do. It is a non-doing, but we'll talk about that for a moment. You know, when I had surgery, I know I repeat this, but it's important because it's a fact. The person is right here, and it's something that happened. For when I was, surgery was done to my eye, they gave me a lens, which of course could see the distance, but I'm a very short-sighted person. And so I couldn't read. And I went for 6 months, I couldn't read at all. You know, not a thing. And that's devastating because I love reading. So I go shopping and I couldn't see the labels and people have to help me, you know, or carry a magnifying glass to see if this is this, or this is that, the product, etc., etc. So anyway, to make a long story short, after a while, I said to myself, somehow or other, I am causing this. I need to forgive the fact that I think I am just a body. And then I forgave myself for thinking I'm just a body. Well, the moment I did that, 2 days later, I had a dream that I was reading. The next day, I reached out for a book, and I started reading. And it was on the 4th page, and all of a sudden I said, oh my God, I'm reading. You know? And since then, there was this healing that took place. So forgiveness is a miracle. And the Course in Miracles that's what is called a miracle. It's forgiveness. See? Forgiveness is itself a miracle. So how does it do it? How does forgiveness bring a miracle? Because it undoes fear and guilt. See, when somebody hurts us, we don't want to forgive them. Why? Because we want to believe that we have a right to be angry because they hurt our feeling, our identity, who we think we are. You see? So we take it from the first level, which is physical, and then we take it mental and emotional. Finally it becomes spiritual, which is the real forgiveness. And then you see there's nothing to forgive. See, that is the process of forgiveness, is when you see there's nothing to forgive. Nothing. Because what we do to each other is a mirror of each other. If I am angry at you and you get offended, okay, 2 things happen which are illusory. One, I am angry at you, which means I'm projecting the anger at you because somehow or other I feel that you triggered it, but it was my own trigger that brought it about. 2, you got offended because you think that I'm demeaning you, which is of course hurting your ego, and you protect yourself and you want to fight back. So here we have 2 people quarreling, fighting over absolutely nothing. Forgiveness is seeing that nothing. Because everything that we do on the outside is done through denial or projection. Now denial is, for example, something is happening to you. Whatever that is, think of anything. There's a part of you which says, oh, this couldn't be true. I don't like it. You know, I don't believe it. You keep denying it, which builds up inside you. See? A projection is when you react and you try to throw it outside of yourself. So, if I feel that you've hurt my feelings, then I'm going to get mad at you. And I throw it back to you. How dare you? Why do you say that? You do the same thing. You see? So we project it. So whether it's denial or whether it's projection, it is all what you are making real. If we could understand this, anything that you make real in the world is your cross. If you understand this, right now already you're beginning to get the peace of God. Nothing is real except, nothing is real. Did I say real or unreal right now? Nothing is real. Did I say real or unreal?
It's all unreal.
Okay, what do you say, Jesse?
Nothing is real?
Yes, I said nothing is real. What did I say?
Nothing is real. That's the only thing that's real. Nothingness.
Beautiful. What I was talking about, what is real. You see? But I wasn't thinking of the world. I was saying nothing is real. Nothing itself is real. God is.